Ladies and gentlemen, high school football fans, we have a Christmas gift for you this morning, whenever you're watching this. This is the release of our PennLive All Pennsylvania high school football teams. We've got a first team, second team, third team, offense and defense. We've got the state player of the year. This project is spearheaded by the main man, Brian Linder, our trending news guru and high school football expert. You've got me, sports editor Austin Hertzog, and we're here for the release show. We're excited to do it. We're leveling up the All PA football team this year after 7 years of doing it. Brian's really been spearheading this effort. Brian, I'm excited to be doing this, man. How do you feel now that you're at the finish line with overseeing the All Pennsylvania football team list?
So I'm kind of a geek for this stuff. I always grew up wanting to be like a general manager and, like an NFL team. And you look at the best players throughout the year. It's always been fun to go back and look at everybody and see who the best of the best was. Austin, we started this, as you said, back in 2018. The writers put together their all-state teams, and those are coming up pretty soon. But we wanted to take and do something a little different. We wanted to look at who the best of the best was, the cream of the crop. The Riders All State team, they go by classifications. This All Pennsylvania team is regardless of classification. So you might have a 6A guy right next to a 1A guy. We want the best of the best on our teams. That's what we've been doing. Also, that's what we've been putting together. We watch a lot of film. As you know, subscribers to Penn Live know, throughout the year, on a weekly basis, we keep track of the top performances in the state. Sometimes, Austin, over 200 performances weekly from around the state or on Penn Live. As we track these guys, linemen, we look at film. It's fun, man. It's the culmination of a full year of football and trying to give a tip of the cap to the guys we think were really, the dogs. Dogs in football, that's a good thing also when you get between those lines. So it's here. It's our Christmas gift. I tried to grow out the beard, and I got a little bit of gray going. It's a Santa Claus beard, but it's our Christmas gift to the state, which is our All PA team.
Yeah, man, you're just a couple years away. Once you get that white out, you can play Santa for some shopping mall. Man, people will be loving that. But you know what else they're gonna love? They're gonna love our All Pennsylvania high school football team. So hey, let's get into it. And actually, one point to everyone. We have at the end, once we get through the teams, we've got a special interview with the Penn Live All Pennsylvania Football Player of the Year. We'll be excited to announce who that is later on in the show. And also, you'll get to hear some great insights from him as well. We're really excited to do that interview. So excellent honor for that recipient. But hey, let's get into it now. Brian, first team offense. We're gonna run down the first teams, folks. Then we're gonna go into the second teams, third teams. We're gonna run down first team offense first. And hey, we start off with a bang on the first team offense. We've got Bishop McDevitt, quarterback, the record-setting passer in the state of Pennsylvania for career passing touchdowns, career yardage as a passer. Stone Saunders, Bishop McDevitt.
Yardage completions too. And you look at it, he's PA's passing king, and we've been blessed in central Pennsylvania to have seen Alex Irby last year, and then Stone Saunders come through. Simon, Kentucky, 52-6 in his career, 2 state titles, 1 in 4A, moved up this year, 1 in 5A. There were some good quarterbacks this year. It was a strong position statewide, Austin. There's some guys on here, Jair Wall, some guys that didn't make it. Jair Walls out of Central Catholic, I thought was really good. Matt Bodner, Notre Dame Green Pond, led the entire state passing. He didn't make our All Pennsylvania team. It was so strong. Stone kind of led that class this year. And like I said, this state's produced Dan Marino and Jim Kelly and Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana. And out of all those guys, Stone Saunders is statistically the greatest quarterback to ever play football in Pennsylvania. Alex Irby's right there with him. Alex does have one award, but statistically, this is the guy all time in Pennsylvania. That says a lot.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, there were, as in my 20-year career here in Pennsylvania as a Pennsylvania high school sports writer, it was like I remember seeing many prolific quarterbacks.
Ortega was one.
at Coatesville that I remember, just prolific numbers. But then, you see Stone far and away above surpassing all those numbers. So hey, let's keep it moving though. We're moving on to the wide receivers. We've got nice representation from the mid-Penn here. We've got Joey O'Brien from LaSalle, and then we've got a trio of mid-Penn guys. We've got Ty Salazar from State College, Dominic Diaz-Ellis at Bishop McDevitt alongside teammate Jonte Quick. Brian, some thoughts on those guys? What put them over the top?
So we are located in Central Pennsylvania, so people might think there's some Central Pennsylvania bias. We'll get to those mid-Penn guys real quick, but I want to start with Joey O'Brien. He, Dan Sostek really got high on him coming into the season because he'd watched some of his film. That's we're showing a picture right now of him after a touchdown against Harrisburg when they came to Harrisburg and really beat up on the Cougars to start the season. He is 6'2", 180. Really, I think, Kevin Brown's up there as possibly the top junior in the state from Harrisburg. Joey O'Brien, I think, is right there in the argument too. Just a big athletic playmaker. He had over 68 catches for over 1,000 yards. This team beat St. Joe's Prep in the regular season. He was a big reason why. I think one of the top playmakers and weapons in the state. Pretty good on defense too. 30 tackles, interception. So Joey O'Brien, he to me, he was hands down a pick. As far as the mid-Penn guys, when you look at those guys, Dominic Diaz-Ellis and Jonte Quick, both wide receivers for Bishop McDevitt, both 5A state champs, both had really big-time runs. A big question for Bishop McDevitt coming into the season was who was going to replace Rico Scott, who's now at Alabama, Chase Reagan, who is now at James Madison. Diaz-Ellis really did not have big numbers last year at Austin. This year, all he did was catch 73 passes for over 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns. Just absolutely tremendous year from him. And then Jonte Quick is only a sophomore. I'll tell you about Jonte Quick. High school football fans may know the name Brian Lamel. Going into Jonte's freshman year, Bishop McDevitt coach Jeff Wachter said, I think this kid has a chance to be like Brian Lamel. Well, Brian Lamel was one of the top statistical wide receivers in the history of the state of Pennsylvania. And Jonte ended up this year, having a big year for himself as well with 68 catches for over 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns. He was really, really good in the semifinals and state championship to kind of skill up.
He was great in the final too. I remember thinking he was the best. There was a period of time in the final where he was the best player on the field, and it was like with all that blue chip guys on the field there for that 5A final. It was like Jonte was blowing everybody away.
And he's only a sophomore, so we're expecting big things out of him. And then Ty Salazar, we had him on Penn Zone Austin during the year. I know Center County, I think he set some records there, but he had over 79 catches for over 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns. Also, a really good player on defense. All 4 years of his high school career, he was a two-way guy, but he had over 55 tackles, 4 interceptions. Really, you could have taken him as a defensive back too. But all three of these guys are in your top 5 in receiving yardage in the state on max preps. All of them deserved it. State College had a heck of a year. So 3 really good programs, 2 really good programs, 3 really good receivers there rounding out our first team pass catchers there for wide receiver.
Yeah. Continuing the list, we've got at tight end, Andrew Olish from Southern Lehigh. He was a big man making headlines there on signing day when he jettisoned Michigan and signed on with Penn State. That was big news, both at PennLive, Lehigh Valley Live, and beyond. And we've also got then running backs, Aiden Bliss from Port Allegheny, and another Bishop McDevitt man making his presence known with Nazir Jones Davis.
Olesh, 6'5", 215, big athletic, 75 catches, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. No-brainer for the tight end position. One of the best in the country. You look at the running backs there, Austin. Nazir Jones Davis, had a great year. 1,600 yards, 18 touchdowns. Great on defense, too. 94 tackles, 9.5 for loss. If you look at the Max Prep state leaders for rushing, you'll see a handful of guys who have more yards than him. But, this guy ran for 221 yards, or over 200 yards in the semifinals against Pine Richland. We were showing a photo of him doing it there. And really, really, I thought, brought it home for Bishop McDevitt. In fact, I was listening to Eric Thomas. I'll give him a shout out because he was doing the announcing on NFHS the game. He gave us a couple shout outs during the broadcast too. So, but he said, they talked to Roman Catholic coach Rick Preet, and he said the key to that game for them was stopping five and in the state championship. And he really brought it home down the stretch and kind of solidified himself as a no-brainer pick there for our first team. And then Aiden Bliss, kid, carried his team to a state title appearance, led the state in rushing, lower classification, Class A, right? And when we look at all PA, we try to look at, like I said, there's some guys that didn't make this thing that had some big numbers, but maybe the competition just wasn't there and all. 1A, you sometimes look at the competition, but you know what? Aiden Bliss was a guy. I mean, 3,100 yards, over 3,100 yards, 53 touchdowns, 111 tackles on defense. He never came off the field, Austin. And Port Allegheny is, I don't think, a team that any of us saw coming. Heck, I don't even know where Port Allegheny is. But you know what? He put him on the map this year, and he's a junior, so he's coming back. So, I think another no-brainer pick there.
Yeah, to your point, that's one of the things that we try to reward here is that maybe no matter your classification, if you've really put up prolific numbers, that deserves merit and that has merited attention. So that's where we fit in here with the PennLive's All PA football team. Moving on to the offensive line, we've got Shep Turk from Thomas Jefferson, that Pitt commit Khalil Stewart of 6A champion St. Joseph's Prep, South Park's Parker Cunningham, Upper St. Clair's Nate Stoll, well represented over in the Whippeal on the line there. And we've also got Nate Kutafaris from Cardinal O'Hara. Rounding out the team, you've got athlete Matt Sig from Fort Chapel and kicker Matthew Parker of Central York.
So, if you like, if you like to, we don't always look at college offers and stuff, but you look, like you said, Shep's he signed with Pitt. Khalil Stewart signed with Syracuse. Parker Cunningham's going to James Madison. Nate Stoll's going to Princeton, which means he's smarter than both of us. And Nate Kutafaris is going to Duke. Kutafaris and Shep, both really long, athletic type tackle guys. I think they'll eventually be tackles. Shep might have, advanced to be, I think, the best offensive lineman in the state. Khalil Stewart actually started his career at Roman Catholic. Now he's at St. Joe's Prep, finishes out as a state champion there. Big man who can really put a hurting on you. He moves really well. Parker Cunningham, I mean, he's a bully. Loved his film. He was a Bill Fralick Award finalist. And then Nate Stoll, the kid who's going to Princeton, was the Bill Fralick Award winner out in the Whippeal, that's given to the top two-way lineman in the Whippeal. And he had 6 sacks on defense too. Just a really, really tough guy down in the trenches. As far as our athlete, everybody kind of knows Matt Sig's name. Penn State commit, junior. Austin, he played quarterback for him, over 3,100 yards, 52 touchdowns. You got a photo of him there against Still High in their state title game. Another 1A guy. He's the athlete because we slide in a guy who can play multiple positions. Matt was really good. He could run it, he could throw it, and he could also, he could fill in for safety for you too, where he had 50 tackles, 4 interceptions. That's probably where he'll play in college. And then Matthew Parker, another Penn State bound kid, 12 of 14 on field goals this year, a long of 57, 48 of 48 on extra points. You get a high school kid kicking a 57-yard field goal, Austin. That's different, right?
No doubt it is. Hey, let's take it on to the first team defense. Here they are. Leading off, we've got the defensive backfield, beginning with Xavier Thomas, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, Chase Kissel of Bishop Guilfoyle, Eli Zimmerman of Northwestern Lehigh, and a name familiar to us, Elias Koch, junior out of Harrisburg. Brian, I know Xavier Thomas has been such a big name on the radar all throughout the year for our entire crew. How'd you break down the the defensive backs here.
I mean, he's a speedster. 6 interceptions, caught 34 passes for 677 yards and 9 touchdowns. A real key for them in getting to that 1A state title game. Uh, liked him a lot. With all of these defensive backs, uh, another guy that stood out to me, I want to say Chase Kissel. Okay, another 1A kid, Austin, 6'2", 197-pound senior for Bishop Guilfoyle. They won the 1A state title. He had big numbers on offense as their quarterback. He had over 3,300 yards and 39 touchdowns. But turn around as a defensive back. He's got long levers. He could run. He had over 111 tackles and an interception return for a touchdown at safety. He was impressive on film and really, elevated himself. His film really elevated it to go with the stats, him up to that 1A level. Eli Zimmerman, he's like 5'7", 5'9". There you go. See him flexing. He's not a big guy. He's a repeat All-PA pick. Led Northwestern Lehigh to a state title. Actually scored the touchdown in overtime to clinch it for them. I believe it was in overtime to clinch it for them. Over 2,000 yards, Austin rushing. I think he had another big year with interceptions. His defensive numbers were up there again. Just a tremendous, tremendous year for Eli Zimmerman, and I think he's been one of my favorite players to watch because, like I said, Eli doesn't check all the boxes that the college guys look for, with size, strength, and all that stuff. But boy, he's got heart, and he filled up the stat sheet the last couple of years.
Yeah, you don't have to go long to see that he plays with a level of ferocity that is what has him as a back-to-back member of this team.
And you got Elias Koch there too. I should mention him. Elias could have made it as a wide receiver. His numbers probably were not as big as some other guys, but Elias was one of the premier throw it up and go get it guys. Harrisburg had a lot of running backs. They like to run the football. But that guy right there, you got a picture of him against Central Catholic, which he had one of the best catches you'll ever see. He's a stud wide receiver, but he also had 5 interceptions on defense. Just one of the best all-around football players in Pennsylvania was Elias Koch at Harrisburg.
On to our linebacking group. We've got Cam Smith out of St. Joseph's Prep, Mickey Vaccarello of Peters Township, and Bradley Gompers, another Pittsburgh Central Catholic honoree here on our All-PA team. Pretty good representation out west there. Another 2 guys from Whitfield, but also Cam Smith out of St. Joseph Prep, who's a highly recruited guy.
Cam Smith's going to Penn State. They're linebackers with bigger numbers. He ended up with 65 tackles and 7 sacks, but he's probably one of the most explosive and quickest linebackers in the state. In St. Joe's Prep, they had some games where he probably could have had some bigger numbers, but they didn't need him in the fourth quarter. Austin, he was impressive on film. Vaccarello out of Peters Township, liked that kid a lot. Long, athletic, could run well. Going to Stanford, I think he had over 8 sacks, and then Bradley Gompers ended up at Duke, and that's going to burn, I think, for Penn. That's going to sting for Penn State fans. 6'4", 215-pound kid. He runs like the wind. I mean, when you see that kid coming across the field on film, you really fear for the safety of ball carriers because he comes, he brings it, he explodes through the ball, man, and finished with 91 tackles, 16 for loss, 5 sacks. He also caught 30 passes for 826 yards and 11 touchdowns. Super athletic. He may be the best athlete playing football in Pennsylvania this year.
Love it. High praise right there. Hey, on the defensive line, we've got Bishop McDevitt, stalwart, Lucas Lawler, Elizabeth Forwards, Christopher Climbs, Bishop Guilfoyle's Jake Kissel, and Imani Christian's Deshaun Burnett. They comprise the defensive line for the first team defense.
So Burnett is another Penn State kid, uh, and he's going to go there to play linebacker. He's like 6'4", 220ish, I believe. Uh, a lot of people will have him as a linebacker, but if you watch the film, they use him a lot with his hand in the dirt, stuff coming off the end. At Amani, Amani's a smaller school. He really got after it. He was tough. I think he had 11 sacks this year. Really impressive film from him. And he was the man on that team. Again, there's a small school, and Deshaun was the man. And he's one of the guys I'm really excited with the guys that Penn State got in there this year. He's one of them I think is going to make a name for himself there. So like him a lot. Obviously, he makes it. Lucas Lawler is a guy for Bishop McDevitt, the state champs in 5A, 11 sacks. I believe he had over 90 tackles. Austin, really good wrestler as well. Really intense guy. Key for them up front and getting to that state title. Christopher Climbs, I believe, is headed to Marshall. Uh, Double-digit sack year again. Defensive tackle type. He's a repeat All-Pennsylvania pick as well. Had a really nice career there. And then Jake Kissel, the other Kissel brother. Again, a lot like his brother in terms of he's got some good length. He runs well. He was a pretty good offensive player, a really good target for his brother as a tight end. But he had over 20 sacks, I believe over 100 tackles as a defensive lineman. People say, "Oh, it's 1A football." Turn on the film. The kid has some nice tools, and he put together one heck of a season to get himself on this list as well.
Yeah, rounding out the first team defense. Last but certainly not least, PA Gatorade Player of the Year, Harrisburg's Messiah Mickens.
Penn State commit Austin. Uh, you've seen this kid, Penn State commit as a running back. He ran for over 1,200 yards. But, he really kind of made this team as our defensive athlete because, a guy that can do multiple things is what our athlete kind of is. A jack of all trades. Well, he had over 1,200 yards rushing, 21 touchdowns. He also had 16 and a half sacks because Harrisburg would put him out there on the edge and tell him just go get the quarterback. And as you can see, this picture here of Maddox Gruber from Wilson getting got by Messiah, he was pretty darn good at that. So he rounds out, I think, what's a strong first team defense.
No question about it. So that runs down our two first teams. Stay tuned also for, as we announced, for the Player of the Year coming after we get through the second team and third team. So, hey, let's break these down. Moving on to the all Pennsylvania football second team offense. At quarterback, we've got LaSalle's Gavin Sidwar, who we both had the pleasure of talking to on Penn Zone this year. At wide receiver position, Roman Catholic's Rayshawn Scott. Josh Smith out of Mechanicsburg, guy, multi-sport athlete who we both quite like a bit. Bishop Guilfoyle's Hamilton Gates, and South Carolina recruit Susquehanna Township's Lex Cyrus. So, anything you want to say about any of those guys, Brian?
I'm not going to go in depth on everybody as I did on the other ones. If we meet here, it'll just be a 3-hour podcast. Gavin Sidwar was up there and in the discussion for being our statewide player of the year all year. 10-1 at LaSalle. He beat St. Joe's during the regular season. He's a junior. He's coming back. He's going to be one of the top quarterback recruits. Going to pay Falzoni's up there in the state. Really like him a ton, man. You look at the rest of that second team going through it, Austin. Lex Cyrus, as you said, maybe one of the most explosive players in the state. He was a former 100-meter champ. Luke Spots, the tight end. You don't get a lot of guys from he may be the first guy ever from Schuylkill Valley on this team, but turn on the film, 60 catches, 975 yards, 10 touchdowns. They moved him around the field. Not tight end that can split out some too. Hamilton Gates had I think he had 97 catches, Austin, over 3,000 yards, big year on defense too. Really hard not to get him on the first team. But this, receiver was a deep class this year. Rayshawn Scott set some all Catholic League records, I believe, as well for Roman Catholic, helping them get there. Really, I think just a really solid group there. Josh Smith, like you said, good hooper too. Like all those guys a lot, and they all deserve to be there.
Yeah, definitely. You touched there on Luke Spots of Schuylkill Valley. Continuing the team and in the running back position, another member of St. Joseph's Prep's 6A championship team, Kyan Billups, also Donald Barksdale of Steel Valley. At the offensive line positions, Jack Yachenko of North Allegheny, Cole Euchre at Perkiomen Valley, Brendan Alexander of Central Valley, Wyatt Maines of Hollidaysburg, and Sean Tanner, Red Lion. And we've also got at the athlete position, Mick Johnson of Bonner Prendergast, who he was had a fantastic year, as well as specialist Billy Leck from Central Catholic.
Mick Johnson and Kyan Billups, both of those guys, you look at their numbers. I think Mick ran for 1,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, had 54 tackles and 4 sacks from the safety spot as well. And then Kyan Billups, he had over 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns. I say that to say, you look at both of their numbers, and you say those are really good statistical seasons, but there are guys in the state who probably have better numbers. Well, go watch the state title games, and you'll see why they made the All-PA team there. I mean, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns from Kyan Billups against Central Catholic in the state title, 6A state title game. I mean, he had those guys on skates. He was super elusive, super explosive. Just had a whale of a ball game and finished strong. We like guys who can bring home championships. Sometimes, Austin, you go in a game, you play like that in the state title game, you're on the radar, my man. And then Mick Johnson, like you said, he was spectacular in the state title game as well, and really helped Bonner Prendy bring home their first state championship. Punched his ticket there as well. And then Donald Barksdale, he's a repeat All-Pennsylvania guy. Mr. Touchdown is what they call him out west. Youngstown State signee, 2,239 yards on the ground, 32 touchdowns. One of the more unheralded players in the state. He's been really good throughout his career.
Moving on to our second team defense. Let's break them down. Another Harrisburg representative, Quincy Brannon at defensive back, alongside Juniata's Jasper Sheps, friend of Penn Zone, and who helped lead Juniata on a great run in the 4A playoffs. Also at defensive back, Jace Ferguson, Central Clarion, and Evan Woodward of Troy.
What we were doing this defensive back group, obviously, second team, there's a couple names there. Jace Ferguson, Central Clarion, Evan Woodward at Troy. They were primarily quarterbacks for their teams, led their teams to state title games. Evan Woodward, of course, won one. Central Clarion, I believe, came up short, obviously. But they were also standout defensive backs. Woodward had over 60 tackles, a couple interceptions at safety, had big numbers offensively, obviously. Jace Ferguson, I believe Jace Ferguson had over 100 tackles from his safety position. Hard hitter if you go watch the film. Like him a lot. You got Jasper Sheps up on the screen now. He was a great wide receiver for Juniata, but he ended up with 8 picks too. I think it's the second year in a row he led the mid-pen in interceptions. That's pretty impressive. And then you got Quincy Brannon you had from Harrisburg up there too. Again, one of the state's more unheralded players as well. He had 5 picks, 22 passes defensed. If you go back and watch him, what he did coverage-wise, he's just excellent. I'm surprised he hasn't had more college attention. Also, a pretty good receiver, had over 35 catches this year. That's a really strong group, and it's a group that every one of those guys were really legitimate two-way stars. And a lot of times, Austin, as we're going through this and talking, I value two-way stars a lot. I like kids who got it done both ways. If it's close and a guy, let's say if 2 guys had 6 interceptions, but the other guy also had 3,500 yards and 42 touchdowns on offense, he's probably going to get the nod there. And all of these guys got it done on both sides of the ball. In that
Everyone always, it's a team game, clearly. And if you're able to impact the way in with 2 different roles, 3 different roles, that's hugely valuable, not to the success of a team. So continuing the second team defense, we've got at the linebacker positions, Khalid Bueno of Martin Luther King, Emery Fleur of Lampeter Strasburg, and Anthony Sacca of St. Joseph's Prep. At the defensive line, Tavian Branch, Riverside, Samaj Fuse, of Trinity area, Lincoln Hoke, North Allegheny, and Clancy Ori of Bethel Park. Rounding out that team, Declan Clancy of Manheim Township at the athlete position. Brian, what'd you like most among that group? Obviously, a lot of guys, deserving guys there. Second, nothing to feel bad about being on an All PA second team, as we've outlined. No classifications here. Everybody is a dog, as you put it. Who stands out among your evaluations there?
Philly's somewhat of an underserved area, in my opinion, in Pennsylvania. The coverage has not been there the last couple of years. Bueno's a kid that I've been tracking through his film, and he's going to go play college ball. He could run, makes big hits. Um, he may be the first kid from Martin Luther King to make an All PA squad. Really good player there. Emmy Fleur from Lampeter Strasburg helped them make the 4A game among the state's leaders in tackles. I believe he was credited with over 180 tackles, if I'm not mistaken here. I don't have the numbers right in front of me as we're talking, but they'll be on our All PA. You can always check Penn Live too. We got the complete bios for these guys, but I believe he had over 180 tackles. Anthony Sakas, the blue blood. Obviously, his dad played at Penn State. He's going to Notre Dame. 6'4", 215-pound kid. Began his career as a safety. Ended up at linebacker with St. Joe's. Super athletic. Again, like Cam Smith, who had on the first team, doesn't have the biggest numbers, but these kids didn't have to play 4 quarters for St. Joe's. You look at the film, and he really produced. The lineman, Tank Fuse, Samaj Fuse at Trinity. You know, these guys are a lot alike, in my opinion. Tavian Branch is like the big dog. He's the biggest one, most athletic. I believe he's a junior. He's probably going to end up going to a little bit bigger school. Samaj Fuse, Tank Fuse, like I said. Lincoln Hoke is actually the son of former Pittsburgh Steelers nose tackle Chris Hoke, and then Clancy Ori at Bethel Park. I called him a bowling ball butcher knives, but Lincoln Hoke and Samaj Fuse are kind of like that too. And Tavian Branch is just like a big bear when you watch him on film, just tossing guys around. All of those guys, I think you would be pretty darn sore if you had to line up in front of them. All of them, I think, are in the double-digit area with sacks. Really tough. And then Declan Clancy, we had to get him on here, Austin. He's been one of the more unheralded, better players in District 3 the last 2 years. He had over 1,400 yards this year rushing, and then he also had over 80 tackles. Doing that at 6A is a little bit of a tough thing to do, and he's produced big on both sides of the ball the last couple of years for a pretty darn good Manheim Township squad.
Brian, moving on to the third team offense. I'm just going to run them all down for you, and then you just hit us with some knowledge at the end. Starting off at quarterback, Samaj Beals of Roman Catholic. At the wide receiver positions, Jet Harrison of St. Joseph's Prep. Braden White out of Thomas Jefferson. Tanny Young, Central Dauphin East. And rounding out the wide receiver position, Kyan Krzyzanowski of Williams Valley. At tight end, John Patrick Oates, LaSalle. At the running back positions, we've got 2 of them. We've got Javon Moore, Bethel Park, and Kenman Spell, McKeesport. At the offensive line positions, we've got Spencer McClintock, Manheim Township, Jimmy Kerr, Central Clarion, J.J. Torres from Bishop McDevitt, Tyler Duell of Westchester East, and Noah Shimko out of Mount Carmel. At the athlete position, we've got Caleb House, Lampeter Strasburg, and at specialist, his teammate, Peter Fiorello, also from the Pioneers. Brian, great list out of our third team offense. What are some of the guys that you'd love to highlight there?
It's a loaded third team. Again, this is the best of the best in Pennsylvania. Samaj Beals led his team to the 5A title game. He threw for over 4,100 yards, 50 touchdowns. Special player, junior, going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Jet Harrison, that name looks familiar. He's the son of Hall of Fame receiver Marvin Harrison. His brother is Marvin Harrison Jr., who's with the Cardinals. A freshman, Austin, was St. Joe's Prep's top receiver this year. Tanny Young had over 1,000 yards for CD East. Real revelation in the mid-pen. Kyan Krzyzanowski, huge year at Williams Valley. And then Kim and Spell, McKeesport. He's a sophomore who is a Penn State commit. Really, really electric ball carrier as well. Javon Moore had a big year. Uh, Caleb House, he was the quarterback at Linder Strasburg. Also a really good safety. Helped lead them to the 4A title game. It's a good group. Like I said, all of their bios will be on PennLive.com as well. So you can read more in depth about those guys there.
Moving on to the third team defense. I'll run them down again, same way. Third team defense at defensive backs. We've got Gavin Harold, Penn Cambria, Samir Crosby, Greensburg Central Catholic, Brock Cornell, West Allegheny, Christian Palmer of Roman Catholic. At the linebacker positions, we've got Dominic Brown of Lampeter Strasburg, Maurice Barnes of 5A champ Bishop McDevitt, and Shane Holmes, Northwestern Lehigh, the 3A champs. At defensive line, Jaden Ransom, Williamsport, Mason Metz, Avonworth, Briar Reichard, Northwestern Lehigh again, and Van Cavils of Our Lady of the Sacred Heart. And at athlete, guy who we got to talk to a few times on Penn Zone, Trinity running back and all-around great player, Christian Joy. Brian, some of your takeaways from the third team D.
Christian Joy is spearheaded one of the better stories in the state. Trinity lost coach Jordan Hill, who's now with Penn State. Assistant Mike Motti, who's now at Penn State as coach. Had some players, Tanny Young, who's on this list, Messiah Mickens is on this list. They were at Trinity last year. They transferred out. Christian's one of the guys who hung around. He ran for over 2,000 yards. Great running back. In fact, he made our all-mid-Penn first-team offense there. But he also had 5 interceptions and I believe over 30 tackles. So he makes it as an athlete and just a really good success story. Trinity, nobody expected a lot from them. They were pretty darn good this year. Van Cavals is a guy who I've been watching for a while because he was, again, it's from our state performances we do. Austin, he was playing quarterback there for a little bit and putting up some numbers. And then you look and, we'd have him on that list and he messed me like, oh, yeah, by the way, I had 4 sacks last night. And so I start looking at this kid's film. He's 6'5", he's 240. He's going to Akron. He is one of the better defensive linemen in the state. Jaden Ransom, Mason Metz, to me, they're kind of a lot alike. Actually, if you pull up the Max Prep stats, I believe both of them have 20 sacks. I believe they both were at the top of that statistic for the state. They both have really good motors. They just get after it. Really good, strong years from them. Maurice Barnes, we know one of your top recruited juniors in the state of Pennsylvania, had over 90 tackles. Samir Crosby is a repeat All-PA pick. He does everything. And when I tell you everything, he returns kicks. He plays corner. He had over 5 picks at corner. He plays quarterback. He does everything for Greensburg Central Catholic. Gets it done. Gavin Harold, his brother, was a pretty good player too, but he has a lot of big numbers too. So that's, like I said, we'll have all of their bios at PennLive.com as well. Really impressive group as well. Anybody who I think made first, second, third team, these are some impressive guys, I think, Austin. And you know what, Austin? You know what we always say? If you think we missed somebody, please let us know. But man, it's an impressive group. We went in depth on this. We kicked it around. Dan Sostek had some input on this as well, and I think it's just a really good group, Austin.
Yeah, it's worth noting that you might, while we have an important role where Eric Epler oversees the sports writers, all-state teams. In an individual classification, you may see just the amount of guys you're seeing on the screen there on the first, second, and third team. That could be just one classification. This is really the best of the best, and that's what our all-Pennsylvania football team is really all about and why we really stand on it and hang our hat on it with the recognition that these are truly the top most deserving guys. There's no frauds in the bunch here. So as you're seeing on the screen there, you've got the entire first team defense, or first, second, third team defense over here. Now you've got all first, second, third team on offense as well, kind of rounding it all up. And speaking of, as we round it up, Brian, I think that time has come. think it's time to announce who our PennLive All Pennsylvania Football Player of the Year is.
This is
And
easy, right?
I think it is, but why don't you share with the people who who has won this prestigious award?
Well, the pick was easy. It was hands down with Stone Saunders. Last year we had Alex Herbie here as our player of the year. He left as PA's passing king. Then Stone Saunders came through. Had a very similar year to Herbie, where he broke all these records. He went and won a state title, 52-6, two state championships, three all-time career passing marks. And then I think you look at this year, he threw for over 3,000 yards again. I think he was second in Max Preps in the state passing. 48 touchdowns, I believe, Austin. Uh, Another spectacular year. It's kind of hard to beat the resume. Um, and then you look back, like I said, we started doing this in 2018, Austin. So you got 2018, 2019, Julian Fleming repeated as our player of the year. One of the greatest high school wide receivers ever in Pennsylvania. I know he dealt with some injuries when he got to Ohio State. He's at Penn State now. Um, he was just a spectacular player. Mekhi Flowers won it in 2020 when Steel High won a state title. He was tremendous two-way. He's at Penn State now. We don't pick just Penn State guys, but they all ended up at Penn State. Like Julian actually went to Ohio State, right? So, 2021 was just a hands down. Nick Singleton was the no-brainer there. He was the pick for us. 2022, we picked an offensive lineman, which was Javen Williams at Wyomissing. He's also at Penn State. One of the best lineman film I've ever seen. Kevin Brown out Harrisburg for last year probably challenges that, but and then last year with Alex Herbie. Now Stone Saunders joins that list. It's been a pretty impressive list if you look at what these kids have done and what they're doing in their lives and careers. And we talked to him some. You'll hear it in an interview, but I think he had some tremendous perspective that you don't usually hear, Austin. Like what he said about his record, how he broke guys like Dan Marino's records. You guys will hear that, I think, in the interview. That jumped off the page to me, Austin. Is like a kid who has a little bit more of wherewithal beyond his ears a little bit, and I think that helped him be successful.
Yeah, there's definitely you'll all be able to hear it here because we had a great conversation alongside our colleagues Evan Wheaton and Dan Sostic with Stone uh, in recognition of his Player of the Year honor. So we had a great conversation with him, and you're right. You do hear a maturity, a wisdom about, and also just an ability to balance the competitiveness with the success of the moment, but not believing one's own hype. At the same time, he found a great blend. So you'll all get a taste of that with our conversation coming ahead with All Pennsylvania Football Player of the Year, Stone Saunders.
We've been doing this about 8 years now. Guys like Nick Singleton, uh, you know, um, Javen Williams, uh, Alex Irby, who was our former Pennsylvania passing king, have been our All PA Player of the Year. That's our state All State team for all classifications. And now we got Stone Cold. You know that? Did you know that, Austin? Did I ever tell you that?
I mean, it kind of
Stone
makes
Cold
sense.
Saunders?
There's probably some great nicknames that Stone has.
No, no, no. It's not a nickname.
Yeah, that's my middle.
Dad, Mom wanted to name him Stone. So Dad said if we name him Stone, I got to name him Cole. Not Cold, but Cole. And it is a Steve Austin thing.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know this.
Yeah.
So Saunders 316 says he's a two-time state champ and PA's passing king. How many records did you finish with here, Stone?
I don't know.
That's for us to know. That's for us to know.
The man don't even know how many state records he finished with.
I don't think you can count them. You list them.
All-time passing touchdowns, I think.
I got them right here if you want them.
Go ahead, read them
Rattle
off,
them
Evan.
13,719 passing yards and 204 passing touchdowns, which is actually the third most ever in the country in any state, only behind two other people, Marty Mauk, 219, and Jake Browning, 229. So out of everyone who's ever played high school football, history of the game in the country, Stone to have 204. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I appreciate Wack for calling pass plays when we get in the red zone. Help me.
Well, you
No,
went out.
back's pissed off sometimes, but yeah, no, I appreciate that, and all the receivers and linemen and everybody. You know, I mean, it's that's not. I mean, there's been, I'm sure, a bunch of passing touchdowns where I throw a 5-yard pass to Rico and he takes it 60 yards. So, but it's been great. Don't forget, 52-6 though in two state championships. I'll take that.
52-6, 18-2 in the postseason.
You know, that says a lot too. The man knew his record before he knew his state.
I do know my record. I've known my record this whole time. I was 52-6, 2 state championships, 4 district championships. I'll take that.
Yeah. Here's one I want to ask you. Every time because I can be petty, right? Dan will tell you, these guys will tell you, I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I'll give Alex Herbie props, and I think he did. I think Alex did keep one of his records. I think he got single season record still.
Yeah, probably. I don't think
because I got a lot of touchdowns, man.
I think he's a great guy. And I don't know if you saw, but like when you broke his records and we did the stories, like he was liking all the posts and stuff, and
yeah. We've been good with each other. I mean, he's a great guy, like you said. I mean, great competitor. So I got a lot of respect for Alex. And, you know,
I don't know if you were at the McDevitt Steel High basketball game, but they made an announcement congratulating the football team for winning the state.
Yeah.
And
that's cool. I know
we know how hard it, all the hard work. So it's kind of cool to see the communities all back each other.
What I was getting at though is, I think he handled it better than I would have handled it. Now, when somebody's coming after your records, are you going to be as welcoming it? Because like he was like, man, tell Stone to go get it. I'd have been like, man, tell Stone I hope he gets a high ankle sprain or you know, and you know.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to say that he would say that.
I don't expect you to say you would wish injury on the next guy in line, but
no, I hope everybody in this area is successful. I mean, if there was a way for Sebastian to break my records, I hope he does. I mean, he just doesn't have the time to. But you know, I just hope the best for everybody that comes to McDevitt and plays in McDevitt and in this area and in the state in general. You know, I think Pennsylvania doesn't get enough respect. Pittsburgh football is good, very tough. I know I got mixed up sometimes out there, but you know, Philly's great as well. I think Pennsylvania needs more respect when it comes to on the national level.
How about Aliquippa?
Dogfight.
Pittsburgh.
I mean, they probably do get their respect. The whole NFL Hall of Fame honored them. So
yeah.
But you know, for real though, you know, we've played around a little bit here as we talk about this all PA honor that we're giving you this year. You know, have you had a chance? I asked you about putting your Bishop McDevitt career in perspective. And if you guys hear this, you can go back and listen to the PA High School Football Report podcast because we talked a lot to Stone there too. But if you put it in perspective, the names that now statistically you've bested in the state of Pennsylvania, you know, like the lineage of quarterbacks that have played in Pennsylvania, because I think it's probably one of the best in the country, if not the best.
Yeah. I mean, I think you put that into perspective for sure. But I think also like when Dan Marino and those guys playing high school football, you know, I'd love to see like what their passing attempts look like to mine, because I doubt. I mean, like I have a lot of respect for the older guys that play the game, but like I really doubt that Dan Marino was throwing the ball as much as I threw the ball. Like, and no disrespect to him by saying that. I just mean they played the game differently back then.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. I think, you know, you just take that with a grain of salt and you appreciate everybody that came through. I mean, you know, like Chad Henne, you know, like he texted me and congratulated me, and you know, he was an amazing quarterback to come out here, but I'm sure like he probably didn't pass the ball as much as I did even coming out. So, you know, just a lot of respect for, you know, the Pennsylvania history of the football and, you know, all these guys coming up. And, you know, I just hope we keep growing. And, you know, Michael Parsons has a better argument with CJ Stroud the next time they argue about team or whatever happens. But, yeah, I think Pennsylvania needs its respect on the national schedule for sure.
Guys, that's what I've always liked about Stone is like, you know, he always has confidence, but he's also very, like, that's a very above his, you know, years kind of answer, right? To realize that the offenses have changed throughout the years. We were just talking about it, and like, if we could even think anyone to say who could make a run at your records right now, and we couldn't come up with a name today.
I think, like, you know, like you could see maybe 5 years ahead, they throw the ball 50 times a game. You know, like you just don't know. and like maybe a coach's son comes up and he wants him to break the records. You just never know what could happen. So I mean, you know, I hope, I don't want my record to be one of those records that lasts for 100 years or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So
They can't take those 2 state titles away. That's
yeah, exactly. I got 2 rings to show for it, and all these high schools that didn't want me got 2 rings. So
Yeah, regardless of what happens, whether you play, another down of football, if you've had one of the greatest careers of a quarterback and one of the greatest quarterback states there ever was, and that's something that, I mean, nobody can take away from you, and everybody would be, just amazed to have, just for the death to have. So it's been really fun watching you do this,
yes, sir.
guys. Our All PA Player of the Year here. You got any other questions from around being our Player of the Year and just amazing career he's had?
just how proud are you to, because going into your high school career, Bishop McDevitt only won 1 state title to triple that, to get that total to 3 in 4 years. Like you said, it's the program that handed you the reins from your freshman year, right? And a coach Jeff Wechter, who's believed in you this whole time. Just how much did that mean to you to not just get 1, but to get 2, and kind of, because that's always been not the rap, but that's always been one thing people said, for all these good Bishop McDevitt teams, there's just 1 state title. To kind of get them into that echelon where they've got 3, how special is that to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Well, one, I get to talk crap to Rico and all those other guys that I got to, and they only have 1. But it's also like, I mean, I also put that in perspective too, because like LaShawn McCoy and them, that's when they played when there was only 4.
Yeah.
Right? So they had to play those crazy teams, and even like the teams 10 years ago, they told me how they had to play like Erie Cathedral Prep every year or someone like that when they got there. So there's an argument for everything, but I'm just more proud to represent my school, and I'll forever represent McDevitt. They've just been so great to me, the faculty, and really just the community. I mean, it's really a family, like everywhere around. And I've got some letters and people who have talked to me these past couple weeks about how I've been like a good role model for their kids, or how I represented the school well, which is how I did, and uh, other than a few remarks, obviously. But but it's been I think that's what I cherish the most, is just that I represented the school well. And I'm just forever grateful for everybody here. They gave me their family, brought me closer to God, closer to my friends and everything. So McDevitt's, I have no bad thing to say about McDevitt ever, and I'm just grateful that I forever get to rep McDevitt.
Last thing from me, Stone, is after, like, in the moments after that state championship, you had talked about, I'm bouncing off of Dan here. You had said that you wanted to leave the place better than when you found it by adding another 2 state championships when McDevitt only had 1. Is that a mentality that you're sort of taking into Kentucky, trying to make the program better than where you're coming into it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to help out any place I can. Like, I'm not coming in and gonna be a very cocky freshman. I'm gonna come and, if the older guys tell me to bring donuts, I'm gonna bring donuts. Like, I'm gonna go in and do whatever is asked of me. I'm just keep trying to work my way up, and yeah, I mean, you always try to leave a place better than you found it. But I think I did that with McDevitt, and not just with the state championships, but I think I showed some of these young guys the way, and just how you're supposed to act and present yourself. Even in school, like with the dress code, you tuck in your shirt, you be polite to your teachers, all that. So I just try to teach all those young guys that stuff that my parents have brought me up learning, and so yeah, I'm just grateful for everything at McDevitt. I can't wait to see these young guys in the next couple of years. Like I've been talking to Sebastian. I can't wait to see Sebastian play next year. Like, I'm so excited.
We've heard a lot about him.
Stone, my one last thing is that there was such a degree of difficulty that you faced going into this year, where expectations are state championship, bust. You're supposed to set records. You're supposed to win a state title. How did you manifest that positively, in that it wasn't a weight on you? It was then became an opportunity, because you ended up living the dream scenario, which is state title, state records, etc. But things had to go right. How did you, I don't know, handle that turn that weight not into a pressure, but into opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually funny you say that because see, I'm in my dad's office, but I have this picture framed in my room. It's of me walking off the field at the Dallas game. It says, pressure is a privilege, and you got to prove them wrong. So, I didn't really think about, like the records and that stuff that much in the off season. Like obviously it crept into my head a couple times just because like you keep hearing about it. But, I was just thinking like I was hearing a lot at that point from the Dallas loss. So, I was just gonna come back and I was gonna do all I could to try to win one more. And um, we got that done. But I mean, like I'm blessed to live like this life that I have. Like, I'm blessed to play football and be blessed by God that I had the abilities to do what I can do. Um, and like I have my dad to work me out, all this other stuff. So, like I think like all pressure is just like it's all a blessing. Like you want to be in a position where you have pressure. Like I hope to be the starting quarterback at Kentucky and have pressure to go into Texas and beat Texas. And so, I think it's just something that you have to take with what you want to be in life. And obviously, I want to play football for as long as possible, and that's just something I'm gonna have to learn with. And I think I've handled it pretty well.
Well, guys, what a story. I mean, again, I go back and I mentioned this in the last podcast we had with Stone 2 weeks ago before state championship. I remember Stone was an eighth grader getting his first offer before he ever played a varsity down, and that puts a lot of pressure on the guy. And he comes in, he has a big freshman season, and I think we pretty much alternated between him and Alex Irby being like our first team mid-Penn all-star quarterback the last 2 or 3 years. And we had a special run here, guys, in Central Pennsylvania, seeing Alex do what he did, and Stone doing what he's done all along, and culminating in him being the greatest statistical passer in a state with the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. And it's been awesome. He mentioned his dad, former strength and conditioning coach for Baltimore Ravens. That's been a fun and interesting part of his story. There's a lot of elements here. And now it culminates. You're going to be our All-PA. You are our All-PA statewide player of the year here at PennLive. I know you've won a handful of other statewide awards, but man, it's been a fun story, Stone. You've always been gracious with your time. Don't forget us when you go to Kentucky. The whole state's watching. The whole state's watching, man.
Yep.
So, you can't make noise like that in PA and not have the whole state watching you. So it's been a great story, man. Glad to see it end like this, and we appreciate you. 7th year, 7th edition, Austin. I think it's one of the best teams we've ever done. We put a lot of effort into this, trying to really shine the light on the best of the best, regardless of classification. And we kind of look at our team as the premier team. That said, there's going to be all-state teams coming out, not just the Riders teams, but other sites and stuff. Any kid who gets any kind of honor, congratulations to you. It's kind of like the honor season. Man, save that thing. I was never an all-state type of guy. I would, everybody covets those things. It's something to be proud of if someone at any level thinks that much of you. So congratulations to all the guys who are getting those awards, and to the guys who don't get them, to the guys who think they should have been on this list or any of the other lists that are coming out. Hey, man, prove us or prove whoever list you thought you should have been on wrong. Get in the gym, get after it, and make it happen. And we'll love to see it, love to tell that story. But another fun year, Austin. Another fun year of football. We're getting right back into it. Obviously, we're recruiting. We're getting ready for another signing day after the first year. But I really enjoyed this year and some really, really standout performances this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great to do the show here, to bring the video element to our PennLive All Pennsylvania football teams. It was a great thing to do with you. Thanks so much for joining us on the PennLive All Pennsylvania football team announcement show. Until next season, be well, everyone.